Hi, this is Jar Citizen Gamer, and once again, my ever-present bastion of common sense, Lightning Dragon, whose every day he's Kerbelin.
Not anymore, not as much.
Not as much, but you've definitely got thousands of hours on that game.
Well, I don't know about 1,000. Actually, I have Steam open. It's like 1,100.
It's about 1,100 more hours than I have on it, so...
1,251 hours.
There you go. There you go. Well, you can't say that
Ridiculous.
he has... Yeah, that's a little nuts. I think that game surpasses even anything that I have on there. Well, welcome to this week's BlastCast. Yes, it's a day later than normal, but I wanted to go ahead and do a review of... well, not a review, as much as early impressions of Master of Orion 4, and I was very excited to get that out there. And so I kind of pushed this back a day, and I was a little tired that day anyway, so it kind of worked out for the best for everybody. But my tiredness had nothing to do with the fact that I stayed up to 9 a.m. playing the game, and that's a lie.
I'm pretty excited for the game, too. I mean, I've played tons and tons of 4X games, and I'd like to see how they compare. And after friggin' learning how to not just totally fail in Star Drive 2, I'd like to see if... Because I'm so used to how hard that game is, and the terrible AI that just hates you forever. I'm curious to see how it matches up. But actually, that's a different podcast altogether. We're not here to talk about that one.
No, in fact, we're here today to talk about physics and how it relates to Star Citizen. The first thing I want to talk about for physics is that, now, while I'm not in the test server yet, one of the things that I'm interested in is the physicalized EVA system, and though Lightning hasn't got his hands on it yet, I'm really kind of waiting to see when he gets his hands on it what his assessment is, because with all those hours of Kerbal, I think he's going to be able to... Well, most people agree that Kerbal's pretty accurate when it comes to the complexities of EVA, and I'm interested to see if they manage to replicate that, or if it's still going to be a little arcadey. I mean, I remember...
The weird thing, though, is with Kerbal, I mean, I've done a lot less EVAing than you might expect in 1,000 hours of playing.
Yeah.
Is because at first, you want to kind of avoid it because you can lose your dude forever, and then it's bad. You're limited for how long you can EVA, so you want to try and limit it. But later on in the game, I'm like, yeah, whatever, EVA, we'll just do this real quick. But in
somewhere
Star
out there's like a
Citizen,
million Jebs floating around.
No, I'm good about bringing them home most of the time. But with Star Citizen, I haven't felt the EVA has really been that bad. It's sticky. It's kind of weird how it is. You have a delayed reaction, which is fine, because that pretty much how I think it is in reality. But what I mean by sticky is, like, if you're holding down A, and you let go of A might still be continually pressing or sending it as a signal to, like, the server. Like, the server doesn't know you let go of the button. And so you'll have moments where you're sitting there like, I can't control my character. Where am I going? And I haven't even noticed that apparently you EVA from around your feet. And I was doing some little spinny spin thing, and Jarvis is like, you're spinning around your feet. And it's like, really? Because it doesn't look like that from here.
Well, that's because,
it's kind of weird.
Well, that's because it's going off the default CryEngine as it is right now in 2.1, where everything is centered around your feet. And that's why they wanted to change it so that it goes to the center of mass, and that center of mass actually changes based on your character's body pose at that moment. And I think that will... Well, it'll be interesting to see how that actually affects it. Yeah, exactly. But also as well,
you don't want to be like super EVA master in some power armor.
Let's hope not. So we'll get when the EVA, when we're able to get our hands on it, we'll probably come back and do a review of what we think about it. But for now, we're going to hope for the best. But the one of the things that basically comes up a lot when you're looking at physics applied to ships and ship designs is that, well, let's just take the Mustang, for example. I think this is the biggest problem.
You're just asking for me to go on a rant, aren't you?
Yes, I'm very much asking for you to go on a rant. Take it away, Lightning.
It wouldn't fly. why? The engines are too high up. First of all, most of the mass is like on the bottom. Then you have the two engines up on the top. It would just push it straight down. You'd have to have either another thruster on the bottom, which has got more power to kind of equal out 3. So you'd have like 33% power on the top ones and like 66 on the bottom ones. And then you have another engine, which lowers the speed a bit because it's more mass. And it's got these huge, monstrous landing struts that it's hanging on. And
the thing with
the rule of cool it's the rule of cool with Star Citizen all the way. Half those ships wouldn't fly. The only ship which I hate, I mean, I don't hate the Hornet, but it's an old model and it looks really ugly compared to the new ones. But that ship, the Hornet, is probably the most realistic, physical simulated one where the center of mass is right behind the engine, and even to a certain extent, maybe the Gladius. I haven't looked at it in quite a while, but I think the Gladius's engines, they sit a little bit high. So I think that one would kind of fall under the Mustang rule, but the Mustang's engines are like mounted way too high. If you think about the A10 Warthog, for example,
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it has the high-mounted engines, but its center of lift is very low, and that's what makes it so it can fly without basically just going out of control.
Yeah, and I keep imagining the Mustang, if it was realistic and if you really slammed on the gas, those fireworks that you nail to a post and you light them and they just spin, and there's like and I keep thinking that's what the Mustang would look like, especially if you held down the trigger after you throttled it, the thing would just go whee, and it'd just be like lasers spinning in a circle as you kind of rolled over into the
thing would only be able to fly at like 10 or 20% throttle because the thrusters, which are already broken and not working
right.
In a realistic sense, would have to be driving the nose up so hard that to counteract the forces of the engines. And so can't look at Star Citizen, in my opinion, you can't look at Star Citizen and say, this is a physics-based game, because it's not. It will never be a physics-based game because they're not building a physics-based game. They just wanted to have physics-like
they wanted
situations.
no, as you said earlier, no computer can handle a full physics simulation, not to the 100% detail.
On camera.
Well,
no.
yeah, not on camera. We were talking about this earlier. The thing is that I don't mind the concept of ghost thrusters. I don't mind the concept of ghost engines because, we all like to have ships that look really nice. We all like to have, the really great sci-fi ships. And there's a lot of sci-fi designs from series that we like that just honestly wouldn't fly. But they look cool. So we fall in love with their design. And I don't mind that if they have the ghost engines or ghost thrusters actually move down to the center of mass. And if you take damage in the physical location, then the ghost version goes out. Because, once again, rule of cool, it's fine. I can live with that. As long as the effect, the way that it's supposed to handle, falls within a certain scale of realism. Doesn't have to be so dead-on perfect, but something that, when the game was pitched, talking about the physics of it and the damage and how that affects your way your ship flies, all that can be modeled fairly correctly with those ghost thrusters. And I think at that point we shouldn't get on the designers too much because you have these artists design the ships, and they get in there. They're not
NASA artists.
Yeah, I mean they don't have like another $1 billion to go ahead and hire people to go ahead and go through all the ships and make sure that everything is built around center of mass correctly. I mean it's a video game. We get that certain things are just going to be funky, and that's fine. But, as long as the overall systems work, I'm down with it. There's a suspension of disbelief, that you can kind of live with and still have fun with the game.
As long as it's not over the top, it's fine.
Yeah, as long as you don't have... Yeah, I could come up with some really weird ship designs. Here's a perfect example, actually. You played Eve quite some time. I played it, you played it, my brother played it.
Yeah, I played it for about 6 months.
Some of their designs... Some of their designs are wonky.
Definitely.
There's that one, and I hate to use this, but didn't the Captain Tyler call that one ship? Everyone refers to it as, for lack of better words, the flying penis. The first mining ship that he had, the what I'm talking about, the one it's got like the one engine way off to the right and the other one's up above, and then the other one it just doesn't make sense. It's but
the one I think you're talking about is like the Imitar, which is a cargo transport, and as you go up in the higher tiers, the transport just gets longer and longer and longer and longer.
Well, no, this was one of his first mining ships. Anyway, they have some funky designs, and anyone who's played Eve knows what I'm talking about. They've got
Yeah,
some
the
that are like,
Caldari designs are pretty
yeah,
weird
they're like
sometimes.
all the mass is off to the right, and yet somehow it flies straight, or all the engines are off to the right, and you're like, what?
Yeah, the only way you could make a system like that work, an asymmetrical design, is, for example, let's say you have a big shield on the left side,
Yeah.
quoting someone or making a reference here for anyone who's followed Star Citizen a lot. The way to make that ship work is you have a larger, like let's say you have a TR2 thruster on the left side, and then you have like one or two TR1 thrusters on the right side, and they would balance their power to shift the center of not the center of thrust. Well, yeah, the center of thrust. I was thinking of something else. I was thinking the center of lift. Anyway, you'd have the center of thrust to line up behind your center of mass, and that's all you need to do if you've played Kerbal. I mean, you can make really bizarre things fly as long as the engine placement is correct, and as for the weight. And Star Citizen, unless they're using magical weightless objects, is not doing that.
Well, that brings up a good point because a lot of times there's a lot of ships out there that have, they say, oh, it's got 12 TR2s and stuff like that, but why do they I think some of those ship designs they need to mix and match a little bit. Like, oh, okay, I only need TR1s, and here in these portions of the ship I need TR2s to make it fly or something like that. Like you mix and match some of those sizes to make it fly correctly or whatever you need to do to balance out the weight. But what they talked about is that they're going to be working with a program that's going to actually measure the correct mass on ships, and that's an important factor. See, right now, they still give you set speeds. This ship travels this in combat, this travels this in cruise mode, but those still seem to be XML related for the most part. I mean, maybe they're not, but to me it seems that these numbers are kind of fixed because like every time there's a patch, they're adjusted. Now, if things had fixed thrust ratios and things had fixed mass, then they wouldn't change. They wouldn't be adjusted from time. Like, wow, this ship that has two TR4s weighs twice as much as this ship that has two TR4s. It wouldn't take a lot of mental acuity to go ahead and figure out that one ship is going to.
Calculations.
Yeah, it wouldn't take a lot of thinking on that to figure out that one ship is going to fly massively different and possibly obviously faster than the other one, or at least accelerate faster up to whatever limitations they put on. But
I
when you
still
look at
think they need to do that system as a acceleration is what the game should be based on, not top speeds. Because you're in space, there's no top speed except for like G forces on your character.
well, the reason why they don't though is it's a netcode limitation. You get to a certain point where basically speeds get you have that the whole floating point error thing, and this
Yeah.
is this is a technology issue. Basically, I mean, 10 years from now, if the web is way faster than it is, or like we got 10 times the current bandwidth, and we've got like 128 bit data stream or something like that. Where basically we can maybe, but right now they got to work within certain limitations, and I'm fine with that. That's not a big deal. But
Well, that's where you could impose the speed limits. Like a ship can only go so fast in whatever
yeah,
mode. So the only downside to that would be that everyone can travel at the exact same speed. So, a
right,
light maneuverable vehicle, it can only go, let's say the top speed of every vehicle is 500. Everything can go 500 is just how fast it gets to that. So your little light vehicles would get to that top speed really quick so they could catch you if you were trying to accelerate away from them because they
right.
have better acceleration. But if you were like, oh, I see an enemy and you just went to full throttle, they'd never catch you again. So, I mean, I'd rather probably see a system like that because that's just my personal preference. But at the same time, from a gameplay standpoint, it doesn't
Exactly.
really make sense, and that's kind of where the half physics and the nothing's quite working right is because at the very end of the game or the day. Game. At the end of the day, it's a game we're playing, and games have to be balanced. It's just like an armored warfare. Well, why do these vehicles perform nothing like the realistic, vehicles? Well, because they can't, because it's a game, and you have to balance a game, and
No, I
and that's
agree.
where you're seeing, the discrepancies between. Well, why is this so much faster and why is it so much slower? Well, partly because it's a game, and partly because it's not done yet.
Yeah, and well, that's what I was talking about. They have to find out the accurate mass and things like that. And you're right. It absolutely is a game. These things need to be put into a manner that keeps it fun. And I would not call Star Citizen. They like to use the term the best damn space sim ever, but I would
It's
almost like
not.
to. I would like to amend that. Well, that's Kerbal. I would like to amend that to maybe or Rogue System. That's darn good. Uh,
Oh yeah,
the
but it's
best
not.
damn.
It's not a sim.
Well, yeah. How about the best damn space sim light ever? Because you see,
It,
you can have like when I say space sim light, what I mean by that is like, for example, X-wing or Wing Commander is a space sim light, meaning that there are certain aspects of it that that it's space simmy. You're flying a spaceship, but there's also things that just aren't realistic. But it's fun, and there's and but you have those realistic elements. Like obviously back in the day, like in Winter's Roll Wing Commander, you could decouple and things like that, and then drift backwards. And that's those are the kind of things that were there, and very useful. And in this updated, if you want to call updated version of Wing Commander, with Star Citizen, there's obviously going to be more physics applied to it, or actual physics applied to, or actual simulated physics.
maybe
Actual
simulated
simulated
physics.
physics. Let's go with that terminology. So, but to a degree, it'll be more accurate, but it's still not going to be a full sim. So, I'm not looking for DCS. I don't think anyone's looking for DCS because no one wants to spend.
That's a good point to bring up too. I don't think anyone would want to play a true space sim
No.
because it'd be long, slow, and boring, and we wouldn't have this. I mean, you could kind of it a little bit with like sci-fi elements, but I mean, if you can either go full on hardcore simulator. You can go in kind of like, yeah, we like to simulate some things, or you just go pure fantasy. And unfortunately, right now, Star Citizen's just pure fantasy with how things control and everything.
Right, and that goes that goes very much into the problem with G forces on the pilot, basically ignoring physiology. See, the human vascular system, the human being has the greatest resistance with basically G forces pushing them back. So think if you're laying on the floor, looking up at the ceiling, gravity's pulling you down to the floor, like your back is on the floor. That's your greatest resistance. That's your greatest resistance point. The second one is like if you were sitting in it, if you were being pulled up, like in a sitting position, so pulling up. The third one is lateral, but that one's kind of a special case because while your body has, while it's not fourth, which of course would be diving, lateral has problems because of your weight of your head and the weight of your helmet, which is why you have basically in race cars, they have devices that keep
Yeah,
the
the
head
little
in
shoehorn thing.
right, and it's because what we have right now, well, not right now, but right now is better and also worse. It depends on your point of view. But at 1.3, basically your instant direction changes, like and the constant strafing, with strafing is still in right now. But that the extended, there's a difference between G's that just quickly happen and are done versus ones that continue on. Like if you're in a long lateral drift, okay, that weight, that
It's
continued,
bad.
yeah, you can really mess up a body. And there's a difference between sustained and short term. So on a lateral one, basically, and it's right now a lot of the gameplay when you look at the way that people fly, there's a lot of strafing. There's a lot of FPS mechanic in that regards, and the way that physics or the physiology of the human being would be required would be first would be roll and pitch, which is very much what Chris Roberts talked about early on in the game. Roll and pitch, and he kept he
Until you
did all.
handed it over to the other people and they just don't know what they're doing.
Well, yeah,
Clearly.
I'm thinking that when he gets his hands, like he's a busy guy, I get it. He's trying to make a single player game. He's trying to set the persistent universe. He's flying from here to there to here to there, and it's obvious anytime you watch the live stream, the guy barely knows how to work his own game because he's too busy doing everything. And that's not a fault, really.
Because
Uh,
because he's a developer is what it
right,
is.
but
He's yeah.
I think when we get close to the release of Squadron 42, I don't think anyone should be surprised to see a major change to the way flight works. I think we might be looking at Flight Model 3.0. I'm guessing when they're going to be testing it, and Chris is going to start playing and go, no, it doesn't play like Wing Commander. Now I'm hoping that's what happens. In the worst case,
Hold up your hand, and be embarrassed when you if you agree with us.
yeah, right. And if not, he's gonna say, yes, it's exactly like Freelancer or something, and
Perfect. This is exactly what I wanted.
that's
That game that I didn't finish because I don't remember why.
I think he got released from the project.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, it was one of those. Yeah, that's a long story. It's not. It's for another maybe for another podcast in the future. But the point is that, um, so I mean, it's going to come down to basically. I think when he gets his hands on the close to finished product, when we get into that beta stage where they're going to make a lot of the
Locked, probably.
yeah, and well, one of the things right now, as I said, for adjusting the whole flight model, is that without knowing the ship's actual mass, without knowing the actually having a more fixed state of thrust on how much this kind of thruster puts out and how much this kind of engine puts
they're just
out.
making numbers up at this point.
Exactly. And we don't even have the shield systems fully. And the Saber right now is a god ship, from what I hear, that basically it has 100% resistance to kinetic weapons right now. So basically, people are like coming at it, and they're like, either like, "Come at me, bro," and they're just firing everything they got at them. The shield, they're just flipping them off, and they don't care. But it's supposed to go to the new shield system that has higher resistances at the top and lower resistances at the bottom. And right now, it's pretty much set at 100%. And the devs actually posted on that in the Arena Commander forum to talk and say, "Yeah, that's a bug. It's not supposed to be. We're working on the system still currently, so it's not in yet. But right now, we're aware of it. It's just
fix my retaliator."
Yeah, well, your retaliator, if it had that bug, that'd be a good thing.
Oh hell yeah! Except for the falling to the floor when you exit the seat.
Yeah, that's true. That was very awesome. So the thing is that there are still a lot of changes to come. I don't think that the flight we're finished with the flight model. And I'm on the. A lot of people here probably know, because I'm always on the forums arguing. I've had an idea talked about by Calyx, which was sensor tracking gimbals. It still to this date has an over 80% approval rating, and also Tucker gimbals. The thing is that I'm always looking at ideas. There's a lot of good ideas other people put out. There's some that I feel that are like almost there, but they're still focused in the wrong direction. They're like good ideas if we were building this kind of game.
We're not trying to make an arcade space game. There's already hundreds of those.
Right. We don't need a Macross game. We don't need a Strike Suit Zero.
Strike Suit Zero, which is a good game.
It
if
is.
You like arcade games.
Right. We already have it. I can go on Steam right now and find like a dozen of those things. We don't need it. We've already got it. So the thing is that, so these changes are going to come in, and so don't be surprised, anyone here, that there's major changes still coming. I really believe that there is. Right now, we just have to keep stating our case, keep arguing, putting our points out, arguing logically, pointing out inconsistencies, point out the past, point out the promises, and keep them true.
Just don't go on a rant. You need to state your
I'm
case.
the master of going on a rant. What are you talking about?
No, not allowed. Only I can rant.
I've been banned off the forums like 4 times now. I mean, for a short.
There was one of them that was a stupid thing, though.
That's true. One of them was really stupid. I can't remember what it was. I didn't even say anything bad. I said the argument was bad, and I got kicked off for a week for insulting somebody. And I was like, I didn't insult him. I just said that the argument was bad. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, guys, so give us your thoughts down below. Let us know what you think about how the ship should fly. What your thought on?
So much more I could talk about.
Oh, I know. We could go on for hours, but that's not the point of BlastCast. It's supposed to be somewhat short. So
but I want to talk more. You're evil, over dictator.
Yes, I am. So basically, yeah, leave comments down below what you feel about how the flight mechanics work. If you feel there should be more roll and pitch, or if you feel it should be more strafe. If you feel that Star Citizen's heading down the path it is right now, if it's correct, if it's better.
Path to the dark side.
If you feel that 1.3 was better, or if you feel that 2.0 the mechanics are better, and why. So this channel is all about discussion. So feel free to go ahead and leave comments, and we'll talk about it. So once again, this is Jarus and Lightning Dragon, and we will catch you next week for another BlastCast, and hopefully this one not delayed, but I don't know, maybe some other cool game will come out. Have a good night, guys.
Bye-bye.